Welcome to part 2 of the cult of all cults. Go watch the previous videos if you want a better understanding of the information and bigger picture we're revealing through our quest here. We're continuing from where we left off in the last video, so hit the intro.
I got flavor.
The movement's leadership was taken over by this guy, Polish-born Jacob Frank, who claimed to be the reincarnation of Zevi, as well as the biblical patriarch Jacob to the Donmic people as he encountered them traveling through Turkey as a salesman. Adopting the practice of posing as something one is not, Frank persuaded his followers that they needed to pose as Christians in order to preserve themselves. Frank taught that the overthrow and destruction of society was the only way to save mankind. Sabbateans, under Frank's leadership, became known as Sabbatean-Frankists. Sabbatean-Frankists ended up using a belief system that was more fucked up back when they were just Sabbateans, that neglected the strict Judaic rules, including those on decency and even wife swapping, incest, and sex orgies were permitted. Do what thou wilt was preached by Frank, along with the Gnostic view that the Old Testament God was evil and that the best way to imitate the true God was to breach every old moral code.
Hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Do as thy wilt? That sure does sound familiar. Weishaupt also said, "Behold our secret. Remember that the end justifies the means, and that the wise ought to take all the means to do which good, the wicked take to do evil." I mean, it's not the same thing, but they essentially mean the same thing, then just in different words. Frank explained that in order to become free, one must throw off all conventions. He also practiced this philosophy by converting to both Islam and Catholicism. He slept with certain members of his cult, including his daughter Eva Frank.
That's not funny, you sick fuck.
Some have gone as far to call Jacob Frank an occultist and black magician. Frankism involved animal and human sacrifices and declares that Lucifer is the true god. Pedophilia, Satanism, human sacrifice went wherever Sabbatean-Frankists went. Frank believed that if salvation can be brought upon by purity, it could also be achieved through sin. Rabbi Marvin Antelman describes Frankism in his book To Eliminate the Opiate Volume 1 as a movement of complete evil. Gershom Scholem, a Jewish professor that I mentioned before, said of Frank in his book The Messianic Idea in Judaism, "In all his actions, a truly corrupt and degenerate individual, one of the most frightening phenomena in the whole of Jewish history. Infiltration has been the foundation technique of Sabbatean-Frankists since their inception. The process of being one thing while in fact being something else became the calling card of the Sabbatean-Frankists." Frank was also responsible for the infiltration of the Vatican and Roman Church. Many Donmic turned again, this time to Roman Catholicism, with the intentions of taking over the power structure. So to recap, the Donmic Turkey officially converted to Islam in 1683, and the Frankists in Europe to Catholicism in 1759. The purpose of these conversions was to take over and destroy these faiths. This modus operandi continues to this day, many researchers believe. Pose as a supporter of whatever religion, culture, movement, or political party you want to control. Then maneuver your people into positions of power and influence in the form of ministers, advisors, politicians, executives, etc. Frank, like Zevi, was excommunicated by traditional rabbis. Frank wasn't bothered by this though, as he still had the backing of the House of Rothschild, whose inner core are Sabbatean-Frankists and not Jews. As we learned from previous videos that I made, Frank spent time in jail, and after he got out, he made his way for Germany. So as we remember, Frank made his way to Germany, and according to Marvin S. Antelman, Chief Justice of the Supreme Rabbinic Court of America / biochemist, Frank also during this time became suddenly wealthy, because he was supported by who? Mayor Amschur Rothschild, who had established a banking house in Frankfurt around 1764. Remember the previous Illuminati videos? Well, go check those out if you haven't, because after making those videos while researching this video, I ran into some additional information that kind of gives like a notice that we're on the right track as far as information goes. Ready? Here we go. In 1773, Jacob Frank formed an alliance with two other Sabbateans named Mayer Rothschild and Adam Weishaupt. These three would go on to create the Bavarian Illuminati in 1776. The Illuminati would be a manipulating force behind the French Revolution and the American Revolution. Weishaupt would later become a Protestant Christian but Sabbatean style, which as we've learned means in the public eye only, while still secretly behind the scenes being a Sabbatean or Sabbatean-Frankist, whatever. In 1785, a horse courier suffered an accident, a courier that was carrying correspondence between Weishaupt and fellow Illuminati members. This is how the public Illuminati bubble was burst. The documents figured Weishaupt and his plan for world domination. Since a lot of books on the matter seem to reference this one book, To Eliminate the Opiate Volume 1, I had to go buy the book and read it for myself. Lo and behold, 47 pages into the book, and I read the following sentences from the author. If you've watched previous videos on this channel, you'll know why I'm mentioning this. The author, Marvin S. Antelman, said the following thing on page 47. There is no argument about the relationship between the Illuminati and the Jacobins, who executed the terror during the French Revolution. There is no argument among prominent Judaic scholars as to the Frankist influence on the Jacobins and the Reform movement. The Illuminati, formed in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, paralleled the Frankists, which were formed in Offenbach in both geography and time, both in Germany. We shall demonstrate there is a relationship between the Illuminati and communists. The author continues to speak about people like we did, such as John Robison and Professor Gershom G. Solom. Let's see what some other authorities on the subject matter have to say about the information in this video and previous videos. Henry Makow wrote the following in his 2015 book, The Half-Jewish Conspiracy. The satanic plague devouring humanity originated with the Sabbatean-Frankist cult, a satanic Jewish movement based on the Kabbalah that absorbed half the Jews of Europe in the 17th/18th century. They were chameleons, pretending to convert the Satanist Jews infiltrated and subverted all important religions, organizations, and governments. They are the progenitors of the Illuminati, Zionism, communism, fascism, and they control Freemasonry. The NWO, brackets New World Order, is their goal. In 1988, Rabbi Gunter Plaut described Illuminati founder Jacob Frank in these terms and implied that the Nazis were a Sabbatean-Frankist creation. Author Livingston also saw the Sabbatean-Frankists as the force behind the Illuminati, the Nazis, and more modern events. He wrote, "It is easy to recognize the origin of communism and anarchism in this demented philosophy. It is easy to recognize the terror of the French and Bolshevik revolutions, the Soviet gulags, and Nazis' concentration camps.
Today, Junior!
The killing fields of Cambodia and China, the shock and awe of Iraq, and the dust of the World Trade Center. Many Jews were tricked by the Frankish communist promise of economic justice and public ownership."
Gotcha, bitch!
Aight.
Booyakasha!
Let's call it a day here. Intro videos to the Bavarian Illuminati and the cult of all cults are in the bag. Next up, we're going to examine how the Illuminati officially came to an end and whether or not they could have secretly carried on their ways. Spoiler alert, the trail leads to yet another secret society. You know the deal. Subscribe, like, follow, share, comment, and all that stuff. But for now, like a fat kid in dodgeball, I'm out. Hit the outro.
Motherfucker, I'm ill.